It's Thursday, May 26th, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, Jurassic Park. From memory, mostly.
Bad memory. Let's do this.
So yesterday, someone straight up threatened to kill me.
All right. Did they succeed?
I don't think so. So I'm biking to work. And the way I normally go to get to Broadway, like after I come over the Williamsburg Bridge, is just like the road is closed and there's construction or some nonsense. So I have to turn left. So I turn left and then I got to go up a bit and then there's a side street and there is a bike lane on that side street. That bike lane is 100% full of construction equipment. So I rode in the regular lane and I come up to a stop sign and I stop. And then a car behind me stops, and the guy literally like leans out his window and yells, "What the fuck you stopping for?" So I ignore him, and he's like, "Don't you ignore me, I'll fucking kill you." And then he revs his engine, and then his car stalled. And I just biked away. It was just like really shabby looking angry dude and his really shabby angry looking friend sitting next to him smoking a cigar. And the guy next to him had that look. You know, you see sometimes where like there's someone who's stupid causing a situation, and there's their slightly less stupid friend who realizes that what the person's doing could get them in trouble and is really trying to like back them out of it without getting involved. So yeah, that was my experience.
I was biking yesterday because I wisely, unlike some people who are not wise, checked the weather and saw that yesterday was going to be 80 and sunny, and today it didn't happen, but there was chance of rain today. The weather changed.
Scott, chance of rain means I bike to work. Unless it's actually raining when I leave for work, I'm going to go to work.
The point is, yesterday was the first day that was finally guaranteed 80 degrees and sunny, so I just didn't go to work. Fuck that.
What? I'm glad I went to work because for various reasons. You know where I ate lunch yesterday? Nobu, that like super famous sushi place downtown. I had like a $200 lunch. It was great.
There was a free lunch at my work yesterday, too.
Was it like ultra fancy sushi?
It was ultra fancy Italian, I guess. I don't know. Or Mexican or something. I don't even fucking know. I don't care. Anyway. It was catering from this place. Whatever. I didn't eat it. I wasn't there. Biking. And I was making a left to go to Astoria Park, and I'm stopped. There's a green light, but I'm waiting to go left, and this car is just coming nonstop, so I can't go left and just waiting. Yep. And there's a car behind me, and they honk at me.
It's like, what do you want me to do?
So I ignore them. And they honk again, so I ignored them.
See, it's
and then I turned left.
It's an instinct that I try to suppress, but if someone honks at me more than passingly, my brain says, just, you know that biker
Give
thing?
him the finger.
Where the finger just like comes up behind you.
The finger was making a move, and I was like, finger, there's no reason to move.
Yep. I try to not do it because pretty much it's satisfying because you're like, all right, I expressed to this person who's obviously too dumb to realize it that yes, I hear you, and no, I don't care that you're honking.
That's right.
But at the same time, sometimes it's, I will fucking kill you, shabby man.
That's right. Don't get yourself involved with that person.
Yep. So usually I only do the finger if I'm already moving. But not if I'm stopped in a place where I can't just keep going.
Listen, in New York, there's there's that spirit that travels around the city that just makes everyone's finger like real easy to move, easier to use than usual.
That finger, like it is, like it. I don't even think about it. Like literally, when I flip someone off, like when I'm biking,
oh, finger just came out just now.
I'm making it.
There it is.
Even thinking about the I'll kill you guy, because I'm pretty sure I flipped him off as I biked away, but I don't really remember. I just assume I did because I feel like I did. It's like a reflex. It's like if you get hit in the knee and your foot goes up. Someone honks, finger comes out.
Yeah, but that new bike path on that bridge.
Oh my God, the Pulaski.
Yeah, so I go and I'm like, I'm biking that way, and I'm like, oh, so excited! I'm going to use this new path.
See, I cheated. I rode on it before it was done.
I saw two people, and they got off their bikes and were walking on the pedestrian path. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with those people?
Yeah, I saw a woman fucking biking in the pedestrian path. And everyone was yelling at her, and she was like getting really flustered.
Good.
I don't know if she just was too dumb to realize there's a two-lane.
So then, as I start biking up the hill, right on the nice path, I see the two people who are walking, like throwing their bikes over the barrier.
So I've noticed that because people coming from Brooklyn, if you come in that way, if you bike that way a lot, like commuting, the way to get on the bike path coming back into Queens is actually like in a weird place, and if you don't know, it kind of looks like if you go that way, you're just going to be on the road going the wrong direction. So I can see why someone would miss it the first time.
If you bike in the city, why are you not paying attention to biking news?
You know what? Much like how, if you're playing a video game, how come you're not paying attention to video game news?
That's right. Why aren't you?
I knew that Overwatch was coming just because that's a video game.
It's been at PAX for like 2 years.
Yeah. I know that PAX exists. I know that Otakon exists. But you know what? Most anime fans who live in Baltimore have never heard of Otakon. Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing. Most bikers in New York, they've not heard of Gears, Scott. If they haven't heard of Gears, do you think they're going to know about the Pulaski bike path plans?
I'm saying is if you're not paying attention to the things in life that matter to you,
then you're basic, and we were going to do a show on that, but then you didn't want to because it was going to be condescending.
Because you're the one who condescends me.
So you did not feel somewhat condescending toward the people who were walking their bikes on the pedestrian path and then threw them over the barrier because, everything we just talked about.
No,
you did not feel any amount of that, like, really?
Nope.
You too?
I feel pity.
All right, so pity.
That's
Pity
right.
could be argued to be somewhat condescending because
pity
assumes
two separate things.
Pity only comes in two situations. One, you're in an equal situation to someone else, but they suffer unrelated tragedy. Or two, someone is slightly less able than you to live their life a normal way.
No, they've
and
suffered a tragedy in that their upbringing did not turn them into a person who pays attention to things.
So you don't feel that there is any amount of condescension whatsoever.
I am sorry and sad that these people grew up in a way that they don't know how to Google.
So at work, actually, funnily enough, we were sitting around and I was like, something, the W train, because I know.
And nobody knew.
And everyone's like, W? One guy's like, is there a W train? And the other guy's
so
like,
not even knowing there was a W train.
Yup. So then I explained. So I started explaining, like, yeah, the 2nd Avenue subway, and they're like, 2nd Avenue subway? And I'm like,
the giant digga that's been happening for like...
Yep. They're like, so what are they gonna call it? Like, what number is left? And I was like, it's the T. And they're like, how do you know that? And I was like,
the internet.
Not even. I was like, because I know things.
Because I've been to 2nd Avenue at some point in the past X years.
Even though for me, the reason is I've actually been following the progress of the 2nd Avenue subway since 2009. But
I read you could read even if you read the New York fucking Post, right? The raggiest of rags, not even fit for toilet paper.
So to be fair,
you would know this information.
You would know that a 2nd Avenue subway is coming. You would not know like the color, the details, any of that other
You would
nonsense.
know that it was probably the T train, and you'd probably also know the W train was coming back.
It's going to use BMT cars, and like I know crazy stuff, but
sure. Well, yeah. I mean, if the Q train is going on, it has to use BMT cars.
Yep. But so then someone was like, but isn't the Q called the Q because it goes to Queens? And I was like, well, no, but I guess I
the
could
7 goes to Queens. Was that called? Is it because there's 7 somethings in Queens? I mean,
so I saw a guy today. This is totally unrelated, right? So you know how there's Mets themed city bikes around now? Like some city bikes are Mets themed.
Yeah, because the city is City Field.
Yeah. So there was I could see a guy go over to get a city bike. There's 2 Mets ones and 1 non-Mets one. Mm-hmm. And he goes and tries to take the non-Mets one, but then it's broken. And he looked at the Mets ones, and then he just walked away.
Is he a Yankees fan?
I assume so.
Yeah.
So you got any news on this news day?
Yeah, let's keep going with our New York news here. So the police department and the fire department have charities.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
They often have charity sporting events where they compete against each other.
Wait, you were suspecting that this is the kind of story Room wouldn't know about? This was front page FARC. Let alone
it does
Gothamist.
Seem like a FARC story.
This was Gothamist and FARC.
It does seem like a FARC story. So they've have charity sporting events very, very often. They'll even play ice hockey against each other.
Yeah.
Right? For charity, right? You buy tickets, you cheer for the fire department, and they lose usually. Right? So they had a football game recently, which is weird because it's way not football season. But I guess this is the time of the year that you can find a football field that's not being used at a college or something, right, in the city. Because there aren't that many in New York City. I think like Columbia has one maybe. I don't even know where this took place.
Yeah, the thing is, though, you can't use high school fields because right around
MCU
now,
Park in Coney Island is where they had it. I think that's where the minor league baseball team played. Whatever.
Anyway, over the Midwest, right around now is when the football fields are all taken over by the marching bands for the next year's programs.
So they had their charity football game, and as I said before, most people cheer for the fire department, and the cops win. And the cops are running up the score or something, and then
like you do.
Yep. And the police were leading 29-13, which actually isn't running up the score.
That's
a
winnable game if there's more than 5 minutes left on the clock.
I don't think there was that much time left. But the game ended in some kind of crazy brawl that, of course, the cops started.
Yeah, the pictures I saw.
Why did the cops start a brawl when they were winning?
You know what? It's just
because that's how cops do. That's
yep.
and I think also the police are generally just like upset. The people root for the fire department and hate them, and it's like, well, this is fucking why.
I mean, part of it is that I grew up. You know, my dad was a fireman. His dad was a fireman. I grew up around a lot of firemen and also some cops. But the perception, because remember, this is Detroit, like shitty parts of town. When the cops show up, usually there's trouble for some of the people who are involved. But when the firemen show up, they don't give a shit about the drugs or the fight or whatever happened up to the point where the fire started. They only care about stopping the fire.
Well, I think what it is if firemen show up, right? They're only there to help you.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you are.
There is no possibility the fireman is going to show up and like set another house on fire.
They don't care if you're black or you're old or you're white. I mean, there might be some problems like getting to your house if you live in a shitty area that has bad fire service because society.
Yeah, but that's budgets. The firemen want to get there.
The fire, people themselves, once they're there, right, they only help people wherever they go. They don't do it. They don't hurt people. Cops,
but a cop, it's 50-50.
Sometimes they hurt people. And sometimes they help people.
I remember that story I told. I called the cop because there was that homeless guy running around attacking people.
There's a lot of times when you ask them to help you, and they fucking won't. Like, hey, my bike is stolen. Here's where it is. Come and take it back from this thief for me. I don't even need you to arrest them. And they just say, no.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
And before you think that's a synthetic example, that happened to a friend of ours, literally here.
And then when there's a football game, they start a fight with the fire department that you like. So fuck you, cops.
You know what? The only thing that would make this great is
there's no song, fuck the fire department. No one ever sang that. You ever hear such a song? I haven't. I don't foresee anyone writing it or rapping it anytime in the near future either.
So I had a news, but Scott stole it to be his thing of the day.
Why was your news thing of the day worthy?
Because I had a lot more semi-serious talk about it, but it is also funny. So instead, I'll also go with the New York news. So New York City, like all cities, has a typical problem of people piss everywhere and they drink in public.
That is not a problem of all cities.
Well, no, it's not. It's because, for example,
Singapore.
Well, yeah. But also Australia. Like, it's not illegal to have alcohol outside. In fact, in most of the world, like, especially in Europe, like, if you're somewhere...
You can have alcohol outside in New York as long as you're in, like, the seating area of a place with a license.
Yeah, but you can't just, like, drink a beer walking down the street, or if you're black, drink a beer in Central Park.
Or...
Do you see that study where they showed
near a beer in Central Park?
Well, but, like, if white people drink wine in Central Park... Cops will... I don't think there's ever been a citation for a white person drinking in Central Park unless they were homeless.
I was watching some Korean TV, and some Korean celebrities had a picnic in Central Park as they were visiting New York, and they busted out the wine, and I'm like, whoa, they're just showing this on TV. They don't know, do they? And nothing happened to them.
Yeah, but there was an article I got them just a while ago.
They were very white-colored Asians, right?
It's not even minor. It's just... Black people or homeless people get written up for it, and no one else does.
Pretty much.
That's how it goes.
I mean, the law was created as, because you can't make a law that says arrest anyone who's homeless or black. So you make a law that says arrest anyone who does this thing, and then you just only enforce it against people who are black or homeless.
But this is an interesting thing here because it's a uniquely American problem of stopping people from drinking in public, and I kind of wish we just, act like the rest of the world and grow up a little bit on it.
Well, I mean, but alcohol is becoming a bigger problem every year, so I feel like we need to do many things to,
But at the same time, the problem that it is correlated very tightly, except for a few exceptions, except for a few special cases. It's mostly poorer people. Like, there's deeper societal problems. Alcohol is one of the symptoms. It's not its own cause.
I think, we already discussed on the forum the solution of banning alcohol advertising, which is a great idea. But I actually thought of another great idea.
All right.
We should, because, there's what's it, tobacco and alcohol firearms. What's the name of the stupid government agency?
ATF? Right, alcohol, tobacco, firearms?
Right. They say, these cigarettes are okay. These ones aren't. These guns are okay. These ones aren't. These alcohols are okay. These ones aren't. They could, if they wanted to, much like the FCC does, right, say these beers and wines are okay and those ones aren't, and effectively outlaw all the cheap alcohol.
So they would basically only...
It's like no more 40s, no more Budweiser, no more Coors, right? It's pretty much going to be hipster beers only. No more hobo wines.
One could make an argument that that's basically saying only yuppie white people get to drink alcohol.
No, because the yuppie white people are going to lose their PBR too. Fuck them.
Yeah, you know what? The PBR thing is like a very specific cultural touchstone, but most of those places, people are drinking like Bellinis in the middle of the day.
Sure, but I'm saying we could outlaw all of the cheap alcohols.
I feel...
Or just charge more for everything.
Yeah, because that totally stopped people
Which effectively
from
does... No, it effectively does the same thing. Nobody's going to drink the hobo wine if they have to pay $20.
So, Scott, Australia did it much better with cigarettes. Like, no cigarette brands exist. Every cigarette pack looks the same. It's just the name of the company that made it.
Then how do you, when you want to order, when you want to buy some, how do you choose which ones?
You say the name of the brand you want, and there's a listing, black and white, that says all the names of the brands and how many dollars it costs for a pack. And you know what happened? People only buy the cheapest one when there's no more branding. And
I thought that they, not that I've ever smoked, but I was under the impression that they actually
they don't.
Had different tastes.
Yeah, they do, but smokers are just addicted. They'll use whatever the cheapest one is. Like, all studies show that they don't give a shit in practice. At least people who are like that. Like, people who go to a 7-Eleven and buy a pack of cigarettes one at a time, those people don't care.
Let's go and make the cheapest cigarettes we can.
And sell them in Australia?
And sell them in Australia. And then, after, we become the most popular, poison them all and kill every smoker in Australia.
I generally feel like murder is like there are steps.
It's not
before
murder; they're killing themselves. We're just speeding it up.
It's still murder if you speed it up.
They're the ones doing it. We're not forcing them to smoke.
When what's his name jumped out of the skyscraper to commit suicide, and Go-Go 13 shot him on the way down, that was still murder.
No, it shouldn't be.
Well, Scott, you're slowly dying just by existing. In fact, by living in New York right now with the elevated air pollution today, so I'll just speed it along.
Listen, if I could file a lawsuit against everyone making air pollution in the city, I would.
If I could have comedically farted right there, that would have been... But anyway, to get back to my news, public drinking and urination are going to be no longer criminal offenses in New York City. They're going to go into the civil courts. It's part of a collective set of bills called the
next time I really got to go and there's no public bathroom, I'm going.
So you can still get a ticket, but it's Criminal Justice Reform Act, and it's already used for things like if you ride a bike on the sidewalk or jump over a turnstile, it shifts all these crimes to the civil court system. And I would have actually kind of been against this because I'm really sick of drunk people vomiting and pissing everywhere.
I think vomiting on the street should be, unless you have a sickness. If you vomit because of alcohol on the street, right, then you should be in big trouble.
Yeah, and they're very clear. This is just to undermine those broken windows laws because, specifically, while broken windows might have been a noble idea in a perspective or a theory, in practice, it was only used to harass black people.
The broken windows, I thought, was meant... See, originally, the first time I ever heard about it, I thought it meant, we'll power wash and paint all the houses on your street to psychologically and fix all the broken windows. Psychologically, the neighborhood will feel better and people will stop committing crimes in that neighborhood.
That was one minor component. The general idea behind the broken windows laws was have very strict laws for behaviors that correlate to crime, minor crimes.
Yeah, that's a bad part. Don't do that part. Just do the first part.
But it was minor crimes like jaywalking, drinking in public,
just do the part
having a gun.
Just do the part that I talked about and not that other part.
So just make the city nicer. But anyway, regardless of intent, regardless of, any reason why these laws were made, in reality, they were just used to harass black people in the Bronx and Upper Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So this set of laws is saying because the and the analogy they use in here is pretty great. The criminal justice system is a giant hammer, and a giant hammer is the worst possible tool to deal with nuisance crimes because a giant hammer brings with it a lot of consequences, and the outcomes tend to be a lot worse if you use a giant hammer instead of a ball-peen hammer.
Sure.
So they're basically going to shuffle more things into the civil court system so that the civil court system has a lot more discretion to deal with the people that are caught with these crimes on a case-by-case basis. They tried this before with turnstile jumping, because turnstile jumping, the demographic of people who jump turnstiles in New York is pretty much poor minority kids. And rather than like messing up their lives with the criminal justice system, they get a ticket, they have to go to a civil court, and a civil judge can just talk to them and come to some sort of accommodation. And it basically really, really reduces the ability for police to use broken windows bullshit to harass minorities. So it's actually a pretty cool thing that's happening.
On a tangent, have you ever seen anyone use a ball-peen hammer for a legitimate task?
I have,
because I don't know what to use. I've only ever used a regular hammer. I've never needed a ball-peen hammer when a regular hammer wouldn't get the job done. I don't understand what the situation is where you need one and a regular hammer is not gonna get it.
So I'm about to look up what you're supposed to use a ball-peen hammer for. But I had ball-peen hammer. I had one ball-peen hammer that my dad gave me when I was a kid, but it was made out of a metal such that it would not spark. So I used it in situations where I was hitting metal and I did not want to create sparks.
But isn't a ball-peen hammer like a ball at one end and not a flat surface?
Yeah, I never used the ball for anything.
Yeah, what's the ball part for? That's why it's a ball peen. A peen is just a regular fucking hammer.
Yeah.
Right? The ball is the part
Scott,
that I don't know.
Ball peen, straight peen, cross peen. Let's see.
What's the ball part for?
A ball-peen hammer, also spelled ball pine, apparently.
Whatever.
Also known as the machinist hammer, is a type of peening hammer.
What's peening?
Used in metalworking.
Sure.
I'm going to look up peening. What's peening? Peening is the process
of working a metal surface. It's a thing that you can do on the street without going to criminal court.
Working a metal surface to improve its material properties by mechanical means, such as hammer blows or blasting it with shot. Shot peening. Shot peening is fucking shooting metal to like sandblasting.
I've never seen a guy at like a forge use a ball-peen hammer. They usually use a big-ass flat thing. You know?
Well, there's different processes. So yeah, there you go.
Whatever.
Metalworking.
I learned nothing.
You don't metalwork. So the only time I ever did metalworking, I was working sheet metal over wood backing, and I used a rubber mallet to do that. But anyway, things of the day. So while vaporwave is not a thing, like that is not actually a genre of music.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
It seems like one of those situations where, like, you know, when you combine genres of music into a new combination that's never been combined before.
Like, for example, bad music and metal becomes new metal.
Sure. Right? Does that actually count as a new genre, or is it simply a combination of its parts? And if that's the case, shouldn't we just define all music based on, like, oh, that's, you know, a canon, right? Use the original, right? The oldest possible, right? Because it's like, oh, that's just, you know, that metal song is just a canon plus distortion. We can't, it's not a new thing.
Yep.
Right?
But there's two different kinds. Some things are just this plus this, and some things do synthesize into their own thing. But anyway, I decided, and fuck, you know, anyone else who has had an opinion on this, in terms of like Wikipedia or academia or whatever, I decided that it makes more sense if you think of vaporwave as an aesthetic genre. Like, it's not a music genre, but it's like someone took a bunch of aesthetic elements, combined them together, and said, if you make something that combines all of these elements in any way, you're part of this like weird aesthetic genre or aesthetic movement, and it's linked together solely by the components that were used to make it, which means chiptunes are basically that as well, just broader. I decided this because I found something fascinating the other day, a while ago. So, and I legit like this music, and I legit like this artistic movement, even though it's oddly specific, but it's the same kind of thing as vaporwave. So I was watching a YouTube playlist that was it was like auto-generated. It was just clips from The Simpsons, like 2 to 5 minute clips. And I was just watching this thing while I was working on something. So basically I was just like mainlining Simpsons, like good Simpsons, like seasons 5 through 11. And suddenly, one of them looks really distorted in VHS-y. I'm like, oh, this is probably shitty. And then it distorts a bunch. And then I'm about to like just hit dislike and skip to the next video. And
I
then
rarely push dislike.
Yeah, but I thought this was like bad. Like, it looked almost like someone just taken an old VHS tape, like with tracking issues, and just put it on YouTube. But then some music starts, and the video was edited cleverly to match the music, and then I realized that the VHS stuff was added in post on purpose. And it was basically a music video. And as I watched it, I'm like, it was pretty cool, so I liked it. And then I noticed that all the recommendations after that had the same title type thing. This one was called Feelin' Fine. You know, vaporwave shit. They had like all the letters are capitalized and like spaced out. Every one of these videos was like that. They all had Simpsons thumbnails, and I start clicking on them, and it was Simpson Wave. And it was pretty good. But that wouldn't have been a thing. It's like, okay, someone was making fun of Vaporwave, and they made a bunch of videos, and they called it Simpson Wave, and high production value, but that's all they did. But then I noticed that these videos were all uploaded by different YouTube accounts. A ton of people were making Simpson Wave. Like 2 months ago, this happened. These are all like from like March, April, May 2016. So I present to you the best of these. If you like this video or this music, then you will actually legit like Simpson Wave. Simpson Wave is no less legit than Vaporwave.
Okay.
And I legit like this stuff. Like, I'm not even
you like
joking.
all sorts of weird internet shit, like Potato Knishes.
Potato Knishes I like because it's really kind of fucked up and dumb. But I like this, Feelin' Fine, and Vaporwave for the same reasons I like Neil Cicerenga's music.
That's what I'm saying, but good. Neil Cicerega is like the borderline. Anything that goes beyond him is like, nope, too much internet.
This is at that level. I think it's good.
Anyway. So, there's this old TV show from back in the day called Street Sharks. It was a cartoon for kids in the 90s that was trying to capitalize on Ninja Turtles.
It was like,
there were a bunch of shows like this, like SWAT Cats and stuff, which is pretty much just like...
SWAT Cats is legit good, though.
They were just like, basically, let's make animal people on a team who fight in all sorts of action and get in weird scenarios against crazy bad guys that are weird. And it was all just... pretty much Ninja Turtle clones of different animals.
They were trying to trick Grandma, who knows you're into turtles, that someone could be like, oh,
or trick you into watching it, right?
Yep.
So all these Ninja Turtle rip-off things, basically, from the 90s. Street Sharks was one of them. And it was, I guess, slightly more popular than the others because, like, I remember seeing these toys at least one kid's house.
Yep.
And I vaguely remember the TV commercial.
I might have watched the show, but I don't know.
I've definitely never watched an episode.
I've definitely seen episodes of Street Sharks because it was on the network I was watching. It was on in the middle of the block of like all the other cartoons I was watching.
It was one of those shows I definitely remember specifically seeing commercials for it and knowing and seeing toys, but not ever actually watching because, man, that doesn't look good. Anyway, so there was a website called tvtome.com that I think no longer exists, but this dude went
it got bought by CBS CBS bought it.
Anyway, this guy went to that website back in the day when it existed, and for shits and giggles, it's like a wiki, he edited all the information about Street Sharks with fake nonsense.
And no one was paying attention to that because Street Sharks.
Right, no one's paying attention to this obscure-ass show, and he wrote things that sounded authoritative, didn't sound unbelievable. Right,
like they're on that edge, like
they sounded true, they just weren't true.
They're like they edge a little bit, like they're just a tiny bit weird, but they're not in like you like one flag might go up, like really? All right, I guess this makes sense. I guess that was an episode,
right? And I guess if you've actually seen the show and knew about it, you would know that this stuff wasn't true. But
most people didn't watch the whole show. That's an interesting element.
Even though the show's on Netflix now,
it's people like me who saw like some of it as a kid. And like there was a character, Rox, and one of his fake characters was Roxy. And you'd be like, Rox? Yeah, I guess there was a character like that. I kind of remember that.
So people basically, he's created all this stuff, this like false history where people believe the things that he wrote are true because it was copied to so many other websites, this information, right? Ended up as being like the source for so many other places. And apparently Wikipedia is correct, but all these other places just used his fake nonsense as a source for information, and people believe this story he wrote like is the truth about this show, and they don't realize that it's not.
Now think about this: like if you like randomly start Googling around for Street Sharks for some reason, like say you have to write an article, you work for some like low rent news organization, they're like, "Hey, give me an article on crappy cartoons from the '90s," and you're like looking up Street Sharks, you'll find a page somewhere that talks about like the cool episodes or the lost episodes. It seems like these episodes nowadays mostly show up on websites where someone's saying, hey, I found this list of episodes that I can't find copies of, but I know they happened because, and he links to data from his original fake site.
And there are people who will say things like they remember watching them when they were a kid. And
remember that
they
study?
have false memories now. There's people who are like, I have a VHS tape of these, and it's like, no, you don't.
Yep.
No,
but
you don't.
There was a study a long time ago. I referenced this a lot. I got to find a link to it again because it was a great study. But a company, that they made up a fake brand of root beer that never existed, and they would insert it into this long, very detailed survey of like what brands, like what sodas did you drink as a kid? And a lot of people remember drinking this soda that was literally made up at various eras. They would remember very specific details about this thing that never existed.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to make this happen, and this article is just sort of like a fascinating look at someone who did it.
So yeah, for all the more details, read this article. It's pretty interesting. And also, don't watch Street Sharks.
Yeah. You know what? Watch one episode of Street Sharks.
Watch a clip of Street Sharks on YouTube if you must.
I'd watch one whole episode. Get the experience.
That's all you.
In the Meta Moment, the book club book was The Wheel of Time. It is now going to be Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. We'll tell you when we start reading it because the weather's nice. And Thor's hammer.
I'll read it in the park.
And Thor's hammer just got forged in book 13 of The Wheel of Time. Like, straight up, power forged weapon happens, and some character's like, I gotta give this thing a name. And this character, I'm trying to avoid some spoilers, asks some other character, in the old tongue, what's a word for, like, soaring or flying? And the guy's like, this
Mjolnir.
He basically says Mjolnir, and he's like, all right, I'll name it that.
Which, that's a super old GeekNights callback to, like...
Mjolnir?
Yeah, like, go back 10 years and look for us arguing about how to pronounce that word.
Mjolnir. Mjolnir. I think Timo recorded himself saying it and uploaded it. It was like, guys.
You can also hear, there's pronunciations of it you can hear online. Anyway.
Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
Anyway, so I'll be done with The Wheel of Time real soon. Kahil White and I are going to do a podcast special on The Wheel of Time, the entire scope of it at PAX Prime. This is probably going to be an off-the-record event, so stay tuned. This is going to be fun.
All right.
Kineticon, I'm literally scheduling, like, now. So if you think you're going to do a panel at Kineticon and you have not made a Grotix account and actually submitted it, you are very close to not doing a panel at Kineticon because I am just filling the schedule as fast as I can.
There is... Oh, I forgot to send... I didn't forget, actually. I remembered to send the GeekNights newsletter in, what was last month? April. And then I just didn't because I couldn't think of anything to write. But I haven't forgotten it. So you can sign up for it at our website for free.
The newsletter's legit good.
I don't know why. Anyway, also...
You should do a Patreon to back the newsletter.
No, because I don't need money. It's free. Free stuff from Scott. There's more free stuff from Scott. I spent a bunch of money that wasn't Patreon money.
Did you want Patreon money for that stuff?
No.
Why not? Because we're going to use it to make GeekNights content.
I bought some extra equipment. Now, I think the last of it just showed up at my house, so I'm going to test it when I get home so I can do amazing streaming videos from my house. And since I spent money on it, I'm going to use it a lot, even if I make crappy videos.
Well, like we said,
so if you want to see me doing random nonsense in my apartment when I have nothing better to do.
The internet responds way better to people who are more prolific, regardless of quality. We're not going to lower our quality of like our main stuff. Like GeekNights is not going to get crappier. Our panel videos and like all that stuff are not going to get crappier. But we're going to upload the stuff that in the past, we would have said, nah, this wasn't good enough.
So you should check my YouTube, and it'll be, if you subscribe to it, it'll be streaming often-ish. You'll know when I have nothing better to do.
Yep. And PAX Prime badges, PAX West now, could go on sale any second.
My watch could buzz fucking right now. It could happen.
And good luck. Have fun. Also,
I'll see you there.
Scott isn't, but I'm playing Overwatch now. And almost all those...
I would play it if it wasn't $40.
So many people in the forum are playing it now, too, that you will be able to find good groups of people to play this game with. Not going to review it now, but I will say this. It is, like...
As far as I've heard, it's Team Fortress 2 with more skills.
It's Team Fortress 2, twice as good.
And less hats.
With a MOBA aesthetic and with a lot of MOBA elements to it. But the skill cap of the FPSing is 3 or 4 times higher than TF2.
But still way less than Quake, right?
It's like, yeah, it's like 20% as skill cappy as Weapons Factory was for Quake 2. And maybe 30%.
But it's still hard. It's still more skills than TF2.
Way more skills than TF2.
So,
So it's pretty fun.
And there's no pay to win. I mean, as far as I can tell, it's a fine game. I'm just not paying $40 when I have more games I know what to do with.
Yeah, but I'm going to play it because the getting's good now, and I'm never going to...
There's so many other games with the getting's good.
Yeah, like Civ 5 right now.
There's so many games with the getting's good. I'll just play those. The Philadelphia Netrunner Regionals are on Saturday. I'm going to go there.
Ah.
And then come right home.
So a long time ago, when I was a kid, I saw Jurassic Park in the theater, 1993.
Me too.
And I like my 1993 brain, like this was one of the greatest movies I had ever seen.
No, not for me.
Like it was up there with
it
Star Wars,
it wasn't,
with Indiana Jones.
No. I mean, it wasn't like I hated Jurassic Park. I liked it. I enjoyed it, right? It was fine. I even had a VHS tape of it. I believe I watched it quite a few times. But it wasn't like I even read the first and second books.
I read the first book, like real hardcore, and thought a lot about the differences between the two.
But like when I read that first book, it was already the edition that was like, the movie, but it was the real book, but it had advertising on the cover that was like, based on the movie, the movie was based on this, whatever. But it's like I liked it, but I wasn't like so into it. It definitely was not at Star Wars level. Not even close.
I read the book first, I'm pretty sure.
I actually did read the book before seeing the movie.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the thing people don't realize, because this doesn't happen anymore. That movie was in the theaters, right? Not the dollar theater. It was in the main movie theater on at least one screen for perhaps at least a year since...
I saw it in the theater like 3 times during the original run.
Right. It's like the original run of that in movie theaters lasted so long. Only that movie and Titanic were in movie theaters for such a long period of time. Like even is Star Wars Episode 7 still in the theater now even?
Fuck if I know.
Like it maybe still is, but it's like it's only been a couple months. Imagine if that was still in the movie theater like this holiday season. It won't be, right? But imagine it. That's Jurassic Park was in the theater for so long. I saw it not when it just came out. Like I saw it months after it came out. Like I had time to get the book, read it, go see it.
Yep. See, my mom gave me the book way before because we were really into Michael Crichton anyway. So I'd read a lot of Michael Crichton books.
I wasn't. Actually, you know what?
He wrote the Andromeda Strain, right?
I didn't read that one. You know what? I got to say, there was, because he was way popular then, right? Because of Jurassic Park, he sort of had a surge in popularity. They made movies based on his other books. I really like the movie Sphere a lot. People don't like that movie so much. They'll probably just say it's okay or
most
bad.
of the people I know who really hate the movie, it's because they read the book.
I don't think I read the book, but
really?
that movie on its own is a thing that I like.
See, I remember I read the book.
I like it more than I like Jurassic Park, the movie.
When I saw the movie, I remember being really disappointed by it because the bullshit ending and because it really skipped a lot of the themes of the book.
Maybe, but I just it's mostly the thing I like most about the movie.
Oh shit,
though,
I forgot about Congo. I read that and then I saw it in the theater.
The thing I like most about...
Congo's got a real stupid end.
The thing I like the most about Sphere the movie is like the atmosphere. Like they're in the bottom of the ocean and there's all the weird shit. And
Scott,
it feels a lot like Stargate in some ways.
You should read the book then.
I haven't read the book. Maybe I should.
Because the book gets into a lot of things that the movie does not get into.
Maybe I should.
Yeah, you should.
It's also got sort of an alien feel because they're like, it's almost, instead of being trapped in a ship, they're trapped in this metal thing in the bottom of the sea, right?
Anyway. You know what? Actually, of all his books, the one that I never read that I probably should is Eaters of the Dead.
Never heard of it.
It's 13th Warrior.
Never heard of it.
Never seen the 13th Warrior?
No. What were the 12 other warriors?
The 13th Warrior
were the 12 warriors the 12 monkeys, and then the 13th Warrior is...
The 13th Warrior is a movie that we're going to talk about another day.
Okay.
It is not a great movie, but it is a great movie.
Okay.
Like, you can enjoy it the same...
It tastes good, but it tastes bad.
It's like Commando.
I love Commando.
Like, in terms of... Like, Commando is both a great movie and also a really kind of terrible movie.
How is it terrible? In what way?
It's pretty cheesy how it's all like how the plot kind of comes together.
Not Stan Lee cheesy.
No, that is a different kind of cheese. It's like a fine aged foot cheese as opposed to...
I like a fine aged foot cheese. That's delicious.
Yeah?
And gourmet.
Yeah, so 13th Warrior is a movie that you and I can appreciate and enjoy, but a movie critic would say, yes, this is a badly made movie.
Well, I mean, Initial D is bad too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but...
We're here to talk about Jurassic Park.
As a kid, I guess it was partly that Jurassic Park became one of those franchises like the Indiana Jones franchise, the Back to the Future franchise.
It was the biggest deal. There were
the 90s.
Merchandise. Like you could basically live a Jurassic Park life in terms of like you could buy all Jurassic Park merch. You could eat Jurassic Park food, maybe.
Yep.
Right?
I went to see Jurassic Park.
Was there a Jurassic Park cereal? I bet there was.
I went to see Jurassic Park at the drive-in. Like years later in a double feature with I don't even remember what the other movie was.
Sure as hell, Jurassic Park Crunch.
Did you just look it up?
Yep, it exists.
Good God. See, I ate the Nintendo cereal, and then I realized to never eat another branded cereal ever again the rest of my life.
I didn't eat cereals that much, and when I did, it was always just Rice Krispies. But anyway.
I was a Frosted Flakes, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, because I ate just garbage.
I didn't eat sugar cereals, except maybe Corn Pop.
And it was also that
Honey Nut Cheerio.
There are movies, in over the years that set a new bar for special effects in terms of like just how good they were. Like Star Wars changed the game. Mm-hmm. The Matrix changed the game.
Matrix didn't really change the game. Matrix took someone else's game and brought it to America.
But at the same time, the way some of those scenes were shot and done had never been done with that level of technical ability before.
Maybe.
After that, I mean, every movie did slow down.
Toy Story changed the game.
Yep. And Jurassic Park, in some ways, also changed the game.
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, the dinosaurs look like dinosaurs. They didn't look like a guy in a zipper suit.
Yep, and you know what? The effects in Jurassic Park, the original movie, hold up pretty well.
Yeah,
today.
No, because it looks like real dinosaurs. Yeah, it doesn't look like some CG garbage.
And I remember when I saw the movie in the theater, we were there, big screening, opening night, when the first big dinosaur is on the screen. I remember the entire audience was like, people really reacted.
Well, dinosaurs are a big deal then. Now people don't care about dinosaurs as much because they found out that they're covered in feathers. I think people might still
care. It's just we're older than the people who care.
I remember being in second grade and dinosaurs were the biggest
second
deal.
Graders are still like that, I think.
But now dinosaurs have feathers on them. They're not as cool.
I think they're cooler because now they're like dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's also that, remember, the only people who are really into dinosaurs are kids, Chase, and people with kids.
People who work at the museum.
And our friend Chase. Chase is so into Jurassic Park. A friend of ours on his birthday made him a Jurassic Park themed cake, and had dinosaur bones on it. But what we knew that he didn't know is that as you start excavating the cake to eat it, the DVD of Jurassic Park was inside the cake.
Mm-mm.
So I was super into Jurassic Park, and I remember as a kid being really bothered by the tiny differences between the book and the movie, and I was one of those people who would go on at length about, the movie was great, except the end was sort of a feel-good, but really in the book, the raptors were breeding, and, there's something going on.
Yeah, I do remember. I don't remember what the details were, but I do remember there were significant differences between the book and the movie.
Remember they go back to, find the eggs?
As a kid, that upset me greatly, and I thought the book was better, and there was the only thing I remember clearly detail-wise was that there was a scene in the book where they were trapped behind a waterfall or something, and that was the most suspenseful scene in the whole book, and that scene was not in the movie at all. But also, it was and I felt like that was a really critical scene in the book, and I was like, if anything, why isn't this, at least this one scene should have been in the movie? And then someone told me, I've never seen any movie other than the first one, someone told me that scene is actually in the second movie.
Fuck the second movie.
Which makes no sense to me, but I've never seen the second movie, so I have no idea.
So did you read the second book?
Yes.
The second movie is not that.
I barely remember the first book. I really don't remember the second book.
The second book was actually really bad.
I really don't remember.
And it had weird callbacks to the first book. Now, I might be, remember, this is from memory. I haven't thought about Jurassic Park in 15 years.
You thought about it.
I didn't even see Jurassic World. I thought about it at Chase's birthday party.
How many Jurassic Park movies are there now?
5?
I've seen one of the first one.
That's it.
I've never seen the other one.
Let's see.
I heard from other people that
6. There is a 6th one coming.
Okay, so I've heard from other people that in one of these movies, a dinosaur stomps over a city like it's fucking Godzilla.
It's New York, I think, and I'm pretty sure that was Jurassic Park 2 or 3. Let's see. Blah 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 blah.
Right, so that's bullshit.
And the son goes missing.
Just watch Godzilla instead. Fuck that nonsense.
Trying to figure out what happens in which of these movies.
Who cares?
His girlfriend work together, evade the predator creature, survive the second. I can't tell without reading this in more detail.
So let's talk about the good parts, right? So first of all, that first movie, regardless of its differences from the book,
has one of the greatest soundtracks.
It has an amazing soundtrack.
I will find myself humming the Jurassic Park, to this day, that song just pops into my head.
It's a very high quality movie. It's not some legendary movie, but it's really good.
It has a really good...
it wasn't in the theaters for a whole year for no reason.
Good, strong characters. You know how The Matrix set this sort
Especially Newman. Newman did a great job in that movie. Yeah.
Nerdy Nedry. Really, Michael Crichton? Nedry?
Yeah.
You didn't think we'd see through that? The fat shitty guy who dies.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
but he deserves to die. But yeah, I don't like that they made the nerd the villain. They should have made someone else villain.
Yeah, they also made him so shitty.
Yeah.
And
well, but that's the kind of character he plays. He played it well. Good job acting.
Yeah, no, Nedry was like, the movie was perfectly cast because that was back when, I mean, that like, so you know how in The Matrix, they give you a lot of pseudo-philosophy and
yes, that's
teenagers
what the Matrix
who saw The Matrix.
That's what The Matrix is about.
Got really into philosophy, but only this like pop minimal version. Jurassic Park was that for the concept of chaos theory. Every fucking 13-year-old kid was like, well, chaos theory, and then they quote Malcolm in the movie at you.
It's not just teenagers. I remember specifically when I was a kid, around the same age, right? I would go to the bookstore and I bought a collection of Dilbert comics in a book. And crazy nut job Scott Adams, who writes Dilbert, who's even crazier nut job now.
Yeah, he's not only a nut job, but he's a shithead.
Yeah, he's not a good person. But anyway, if you read like the old Dilbert books, like I was expecting when I bought them, I thought that they would be like Calvin and Hobbes' book, where it's like, oh, a collection of all these comics in a book. How convenient.
With a forward by someone else.
Right. And I didn't read all these in the newspaper. How nice is this, right? To have all these, but he didn't do it like that. He would put writing in there, especially in the back. He would just write stuff, the kind of stuff he writes on the internet now. And in the first or second Dilbert book, I don't know which one it was, is a whole nutty thing about chaos theory, which I presumed was because he had read Jurassic Park recently.
So this was also the era where I still thought that Jeff Goldblum was a good actor, and I remember as a kid looking up to that character.
Not a bad actor,
but he's I don't know.
He's not a fucking great actor, but
when I see Jeff Goldblum in a movie,
bad.
I just shake my head a little bit, and it's hard.
I think he's a bit typecast for sure. Right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look, in Jurassic Park and in Independence Day, which are pretty much the movies he did back to back. Right, but he plays basically the same character.
I also remember being mad as a kid that, like, I think the old guy Hammond. I'm pretty sure he dies just like a chump way earlier in the book.
Yeah, he survives in the movie, I think. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he's all like, they keep giving him morphine in the book, and there's this whole thing with the morphine. And I remember the one, like, I think a little dinosaur bites him.
It's gonna be great if we're wrong because our memory from the 90s.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he dies because, like.
I am also pretty sure.
No, but I'm pretty sure the kids. This is gonna be the test of my memory because I remember the scene for some reason. I remember the kids are in a control room somewhere and they find they can hit a button and it like makes sounds out in the park, and one of them makes a T-Rex sound, and I think it was used to like scare their dinosaurs away for reasons. So they hit it and it happens, and then the book cuts to he's fucking walking around in like a morphine stupor, and it scares him because he thinks the T-Rex is there, so he runs away, and he runs into a pack of little dinosaurs, and the little dinosaurs have a bite that causes you to not feel pain, and he gets bitten by one of them, and then he falls over, and then he just goes down like a chump, and they eat him, and he kind of thinks that he doesn't feel them biting him, and how odd that is. That's a very specific memory I have.
I do not have the memory of how he died.
I just remember in the book.
I just remember that my vague memory is the old guy dies in the book, and the old guy was like a bad guy. He was irresponsible, and he's the one who made this stupid park, right? And he did, so he was a bad person who had played gods. He hadn't played gods, therefore he died.
So I also remember a scene in the first one. Remember where they're using the computer, and she's like, "I know Unix," and then like she saves the day.
No, I don't remember.
They like type some commands and like open a door or something.
Don't remember.
I think it's the second book. The same fucking scene happens where the two same kids, I think, find a computer, but it's like a more powerful Unix, and it's got 3D graphics, and there's this rotating cube of menus, and they can't figure it out, and it's getting more and more complicated. And then the girl's like, wait a minute, you couldn't drive that powerful of a graphics system without a fiber optic cable. And then she goes behind the computer and finds a fiber optic cable, and then they find like a pathway that cable went, and they crawl through a hole.
Okay.
That's all I remember.
Don't remember that either.
I remember those things.
All right, so let's talk about some other Jurassic Park things, right? So
the SNES game was kind of legit good.
Right. There was an SNES/Genesis game, which is a platformer, and this is one of those cases where...
The SNES one was an FPS.
Oh, really? I thought the SNES one was the same as the Genesis one.
No, it was an FPS.
Oh, well, the Genesis... This is one of those cases where...
And it was a top-down walk-around.
This is one of those cases where the Genesis game was way better, right? The Genesis X-Men game was better, the Genesis Aladdin game was better, and the Genesis Jurassic Park game was better.
That Genesis X-Men game was the best X-Men game to come out up to that point.
Except for the arcade one.
Yeah.
Right? But the Genesis Jurassic Park game was like a legit good platformer where you could be the Velociraptor or the dude, right? And you could do all, it was a really kind of good platforming action game. It was really hard and totally worth playing. I want to see someone speedrun it. Maybe someone has. So go back and check that out. Also, the Jurassic Park for the Sega CD was not good, but it was legendary.
It was definitely.
It was all about like you would literally walk around. It was a lot like Myst in a way, right? Where it was like a first person, but it was using cutscenes that were pre-rendered, so it was a lot of loading time from the CD, and you couldn't move around, and you could sort of look around and poke and point and click. But then there was some action parts you had to shoot, and basically you were trying to steal dinosaurs' eggs from around the island without getting murdered, and it was weird.
So Scott, I guess you didn't play it then. So the Jurassic Park game on the SNES, it was one of the 10 games that used the mouse.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, it was an FPS with a mouse.
Okay.
Or you walked around.
I think the Sega CD one,
or you walked around like Secret of Evermore.
The Sega CD one probably should have had a mouse, but I don't think there was a mouse for the Sega.
So you had a top-down Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana kind of game where you walk around and have a little gun and shoot, solve puzzles and pick shit up, and you know what it looked a lot like? Zombies Ate My Neighbors. But then if you went into a building, it was an FPS with the mouse. And there's raptors and dark rooms, and it was real scary. Real scary. When a raptor came after me, I would flip out, and my brother would scream, and those were good times as a kid. What other game? It was King Arthur. The King Arthur game used the mouse. SimCity didn't, even though it should have. But anyway.
Well, SimCity came. It was a launch game for the Super Nintendo. The mouse came way, way later. That's why SimCity.
The mouse came with Mario Paint.
That's right. You couldn't even get the mouse on its own.
Yeah. Oh my God, I was so obsessed with getting that mouse because I was already a PC gamer.
You know, we should make a thing where you plug in a normal optical mouse with USB, and then it converts it into, Super Nintendo mouse, and you could plug your regular mouse into a Super Nintendo.
Except you can just use an emulator and say mouse.
But I mean, if you have a Super Nintendo, but you don't have a mouse, those are hard to get.
If you have a Super Nintendo, I have 2 of them. You want one?
No. I'm just saying there are people out there who have
Anyone
Super Nintendos
who cares
who
about
don't
the
have
Super
mice.
Nintendo, I'll bet I can find one for less than $10.
You think the mice is less than $10? I think it's rare and expensive.
If it's rare and expensive, I have 2, and I'm going to sell them.
On eBay, good idea.
All right, a brand new unopened one is $295.
You don't have that.
Mario Paint with the mouse, $20. Buy it now.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Mario Paint with the mouse, good quality, $30.
All right. It's not worth that much then. You can get one.
Yeah, you can get
But
a
the
mouse.
problem is that here's another thing though. You might not want to use that mouse because it's a shitty ball mouse, and it'd be much nicer to use a modern optical mouse.
Oh my God, a whole generation of kids don't know what it was like to have a physical mouse with a ball.
Anyway.
Do a show on mice, the evolution of mice over the years.
Kids these days don't even have mice. They got touch screens and touch pads.
Yeah, and those kids can't play games as a result.
Dun dun.
Scott, the tutorial in Overwatch is literally I'm going to run back and forth across the screen. Watch me do it. And it makes you watch, left, right, up,
Have you ever
down.
done the Half-Life 1 tutorial?
Nope, because by the time I played Half-Life 1, I was already a pro FPSer.
It's walk forward, jump over this pit.
Yep.
It's basically the same thing.
So I never saw Jurassic World, and it's interesting because half the people I know who've seen it said that it is an amazing movie, and the other half said
there's a Jurassic Park movie that's not the first one that's amazing?
That's what half the people I've
I was under the impression that they were all garbage, knowing almost nothing about them.
Well, the new one apparently is just really well done, but a bunch of people who have seen the movie said that it's hot garbage, and it'll just kind of diminish your memory of the original.
I mean, he only wrote 2 books, so what did they write for these future movies?
So I'm pretty sure.
Do all the movies follow from each other? If you watch only movies, are they all in the same universe?
So the second movie, I don't think is based on anything.
Okay.
Because it's not the second book, as far as I could tell. It was just this garbage
movie. But does it at least follow from the first movie?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Because the first book already deviates so far from where the first movie ends that there really couldn't, if there was any continuity between the 2 sets. And I actually don't know, because I never kept up on the franchise. Jurassic Park, as prevalent and pervasive as it was in pop culture throughout my entire childhood, all the way up through high school, and I was really into the first movie and the book and the SNES game and just pop culture. Everyone had seen it. Everyone knew about it. I just stopped paying attention after I saw the second movie and it was bad. I just ignored it forevermore.
Well, I mean, there are these certain franchises that from the 80s and 90s that center on movies, right? Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, Jurassic
Indiana
Park,
Jones.
RoboCop, Terminator 2, Indiana Jones, and Star Wars.
But even then, RoboCop, the TV show is bad. The animated TV show is bad. The second movie is bad. The third movie is the worst thing you'll ever see.
I think that's all of them that I've got, right? Did I cover all of them? That's just about all of them, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, Jurassic Park was actually at its peak, other than Star Wars, right? At its peak time, was the biggest one. It was in the movie theater for a year. It raked in the most money, had the most shit everywhere, right? It was way bigger than Back to the Future was, and Back to the Future was a new movie.
There was a big gap between Jurassic. What was the next thing after like Jurassic Park that became a new franchise like that? Like a movie franchise?
I don't even know. But
I think Lord of the Rings?
Maybe, but...
There's got to be... And Matrix?
Yeah, kind of. Anyway, but the point is that despite being just as big or bigger than most of those at its, peak time, it is faded more. It's still around, obviously, right? Because something's, inertia.
It looks like all this shit made a lot of money, though.
If you were, of course, it made a ton of money. But if you look at, say, a graph of like where they stand today, like Back to the Future is way above where, Jurassic Park is today, right? Just like how big they are right at this very moment,
Yeah.
It's like, so Jurassic Park, it was the highest and it fell the furthest. It's not in the gutter. You said they're just making another movie, right? It's not gone.
Here's the box office. I don't think this is done for inflation.
Is it adjusted for inflation? No. Okay.
But Jurassic Park 1, about $500,000, $400,000 in North America, and $1 billion worldwide.
Yeah.
Lost World, the second movie, garbage, like 200 and something. Jurassic Park 3, way less, $180,000, $180 million.
Mm-hmm.
$180 million.
And I think that's the reason that Jurassic Park fell farther than those other ones, because even Back to the Future, where the first one was way better than the second and the third, right?
They were still pretty good.
They were still bringing, those second and third aren't remembered as like vile, right? Star Wars is like boom, 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 great, 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 right? It's like these other things that happened. Well, Matrix.
Well, here's the Rotten.
He only had one movie.
Here are the Rotten Tomatoes ratings. Jurassic Park 93%. Jurassic Park 2 51%.
Oh man.
Jurassic Park 3 50%.
All right, compare that to Back to the Future.
I'll have to
even Ghostbusters 2 was better than Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah, Ghostbusters 2 is actually a pretty good movie.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
I think nostalgia boosted a lot.
I think it's also that those characters...
Even Ghostbusters 1, New York boosted a lot.
The characters are so strong that they kind of carry Ghostbusters 2. Like, if that same story wasn't those characters, that movie would have been forgotten.
Right. But Terminator 1, and then Terminator 2 went up.
Yeah, well, because Terminator 1 was a horror movie.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 was like a legit, for real, awesome science fiction, speculative fiction story that independently was an amazing, amazing action movie.
If the point is, if Jurassic Park 2 had been like Terminator 2, like even better than Jurassic Park 1,
Park would have been one of the biggest franchises ever.
Jurassic Park would currently be like the king of all of these things.
Jurassic Park 1, 93, 2, 97, 3, 2001. So, 14 years later, in 2015, they made Jurassic World, and it made way more money than the original Jurassic Park.
Well, the inflation.
With inflation, it's probably about the same amount of money.
Maybe. Well, movies, the size of the movie pie is larger right now.
The budget actually comparable, which is interesting.
Not the budgets. I'm talking about the pie of how much money goes into, how much money people are spending on movies.
Rotten Tomatoes rating, 72. So the franchise kind of bounced off the bottom with Jurassic Park 3, and maybe it's going to get revitalized. Because I feel like Jurassic World
They would have to make something like that, just be like such a legendary movie that even people who don't remember or care about Jurassic Park would go see it.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's how much you would need to do to bring it back.
The reason it's so tough, I think, is that one of the other huge franchises, like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit just like fell through the trap door and disappeared into garbage
I didn't even
land.
see Hobbit 2.
I didn't.
Oh no! Did I see Hobbit 2 and not 3?
You saw 2 and not 3.
Okay.
I saw 2 and it was so bad I thought about walking out. It was awful.
I didn't see it in a theater. I saw 2.
I saw it in the theater, but
I
not
saw
3D.
1 in a theater. I saw 2 elsewhere, and I haven't seen 3.
Actually, kind of an aside. You know what?
I'm just gonna watch Lord of the Rings.
Mad Max was such a good movie that Because Mad Max, weird. Like, a lot of people know what Mad Max is, but hadn't actually ever seen a Mad Max movie.
That's actually an example of, even though I still haven't seen it, right?
Like, legendary franchise.
It shows that it is possible to revive some old dead franchise.
Yeah, Scott, I'm
right?
like I know you have to see it at some point because I'm not even exaggerating.
Right.
Mad Max was the best movie of that year. Hands down. But Jurassic World was about it looks like it's being treated about as good as the new Star Wars. Both of them are like this level of movie. The problem is they have to compete in a world where the Marvel Cinematic Universe
I think
exists.
that's basically like there's like this level now of like how big your movie can be, and that's how big your movie can be these days.
Unless you're the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I'm saying that's the level though. It's
Well, no, yeah, that's the top.
Right.
But look at that. That's a franchise.
I haven't seen any of those either.
That's a new kind of franchise. Every one of these things we talked about from the 90s and the 2000s was make a movie, part 2, part 3, part 4. Marvel Cinematic Universe was movie. Let's mash them all together into another movie. Movie. Mash those into a movie. Mash them all into a movie. It's like all these parallel threads, like this totally different way of going about making a movie franchise. That's all I got on Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I don't remember anymore.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
The Patreon for this episode of Geek Nights and the amount of money they give us on a continuing basis are Alan Joyce, Rebecca Dunn, Nicholas Brandau, Heidi McNichol, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian, I hired a genealogist and we aren't pending blood test Kunz, MyStady.com, Sean Hayworth, William Eisenrose, Jeremy Miner, Spartacus, Matthew Smith, Kimberly Batchelor, Kajar Tavish, and Joe Shiro Joestar, Tyler Eller, Don Schleich, Sean Yeager, Clinton Walton, Ren from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Roy Lavelle, Brian Cedroni, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Silverrod, and the Infinite Sadness, Kinetic Man, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, A Red Lion, Sam Cordry, Daniel Redmond, Chris Haddad, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. Yes, we know the forum is down. There is an outage at Rackspace, and that is affecting us. And as much as I love you guys, we're not paying enough money to have multi-data center aware, fully HADR forums. I could put the Patreon money toward that and a better forum, but you probably expect me to put the Patreon money towards something much larger, like a convention or a bunch of video equipment, because we're going to accelerate some of our video content. But I tried to use the money to let Scott pay for a bunch of wireless equipment that he bought, but he doesn't want the Patreon money, so he bought that on his own. But nonetheless, we'll get to use that stuff to make a bunch of video. So the Patreon money is still safe and sound and ready for some gigantic project that we will start using in the near future. I actually haven't even claimed it all yet. But anyway, without further ado, I leave you with some Simpson Wave.
They figure me a dead motherfucker, but I'm just a motherfucker down on the beat. That's no level with the lead in his head, turning me into his run. I bet you use me as a fucking best friend.